right, hello and welcome to another Expert Insight interview. My name is John Golden from Salespeople Online Sales Magazine and Pipeliner CRM, joining you as usual from a sunny San Diego. And today I'm delighted to be joined from across the pond, as they like to say here in the States, across the pond in the UK, in the greater Manchester area, Dr. Robin Hills. How are you doing, Robin?
I am doing great. It's a cloudy day in Manchester. Normally it's raining, and I know you like to discuss the weather, so I beat you to it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. And Robin is a business psychologist and the director of EI for Change, a company specializing in emotional intelligence for change in education, training, coaching, and personal development focused around emotional intelligence, positive psychology, and neuroscience. And your company, you were awarded International Impact Company of the Year by .com magazine in 2024, which is fantastic. You're also the author of The Authority Guide to Behavior in Business and The Authority Guide to Emotional Resilience in Business. And you've trained a lot of people across the world in, I think, what was it, 195 plus countries. It's amazing. And what we're going to talk about today is emotional intelligence, but we're going to talk about it in the context of selling, as a lot of our audience are involved in sales or marketing, sales and marketing, or in one form or another, entrepreneurs. And first of all, Robin, emotional intelligence, is thrown. The phrase is thrown around a lot. I think, as you're an expert in this area, it'd be great to get a proper definition of it, so that we just bottom line it with a good solid definition.
Oh, most definitely. My definition is different from quite a few of the academics' definition, and don't necessarily agree on the definition. But my definition is quite simple: it's being smart with your feelings. It's combining the way that you think with your emotions in order to make good quality decisions and build up authentic relationships in order to take action. That's it.
Mhm.
Very simple, yet very, very hard to do.
Yeah. I was just going to say that simple doesn't necessarily equate to easy, right? Yeah.
So
And so tell me, when we talk about emotions, as you said, there is, I mean, that's a difficult area, isn't it? Because I mean, people are. It's a difficult thing is to get connected and recognize your emotions and understand your emotions, understand how you react to things. But there are ways, like, I mean, your body will tell you. There's physiological things will tell you, you will alert you to things. But how do you start off if you are somebody who thinks, okay, I can do a lot better in this area? Where should they start?
well, let's get rid of one of the misconceptions around emotions to start with. Firstly, there's no such thing as a positive emotion, and there's no such thing as a negative emotion.
Mhm.
Emotions might feel unpleasant at times. Emotions might feel quite pleasant at times, but they are purveyors of data. They provide us with information, and they're providing us with information around what's going on in our environment. And this information, if we learn to interpret it through our intelligence, we're in a better position to be able to understand what's going on and to choose the right responses. So, really, it's a case of reflecting on, why am I feeling the way that I'm feeling? And I'm feeling this way for a particular reason. Physiologically and psychologically, being put in the right place in order to deal with it.
Mhm.
So, as I say, some of the emotions might not feel particularly pleasant, but
Mhm.
it's not the emotion that should take the label. It's the behavior that you choose to behave in,
Right.
or
Yeah.
it's the way that you choose to behave in that should take the label positive or negative, not the emotion itself.
Yeah, and it's interesting. It's interesting, as you said, that it's data and information, because oftentimes people say, would say, no, it's like control or suppress your emotions, rather than almost what you're saying is, well, understand it first, understand what it's
Yes.
telling you.
Yeah, it gives you choices. And the choices are the way in which you choose to behave. Now, it's very easy, John, for the two of us to sit comfortably in the studio and talk about emotions in this way. In the heat of the moment, it can be incredibly difficult to feel that you've got a choice. You'll just react in many circumstances.
Mhm.
But I think the important thing, as good salespeople will do, is they'll come away from an interaction and they'll do a level of self-reflection. What did I do that went well?
Mhm.
What could I have done better? Have I left that person feeling good about themselves, feeling good about me, feeling good about how we've interacted? Indeed, feeling good about my products or services that I'm selling to them. And if we can answer that affirmatively, then we're doing well. But more often than not, it's great to have a degree of self criticism. Yes, it went very well,
Yeah.
but this is what I could have done better.
Yeah, and then let's face it. I mean, in the context of sales, I mean, it's a particularly difficult area because it's you have to be, you get a lot of rejection. You get a lot of there's people generally tend to be a little bit defensive when they're confronted with salespeople. As salespeople, you carry a lot of baggage into every interaction. So there's an awful lot going on. So how do you take that step back and allow yourself that self reflection? Because I feel like we live in a culture today that almost like doesn't want you to ever self reflect.
Well, I think the important thing is that you need to self-reflect as a salesperson. Every single sales interaction is different, and what you're doing in any sales situation is you are helping somebody to change their behavior, and you are giving them the ability to make the appropriate choices that they need to make around utilizing your services or your product. Now, in certain circumstances, it might be that you need to push a little bit harder than on others. But in most situations, you need to leave the person that you're interacting with feeling that they're in control of making the decision. Yes, I particularly want what this person is talking about. I trust them, I respect them. And to do that, you're working with that person, even if it's very superficially, to build a relationship with
Mhm.
them and to help them reaffirm themselves in that interaction so that they feel that they are in control, as I say, of making the decision, do I buy or don't I buy? And what you're doing is you're encouraging them to make the right decision.
Yeah,
Now, it may be that the right decision is they don't use your
yeah,
product.
yeah, yeah.
So
But
you need to help them to do that, and then that builds trust.
yeah, and it's interesting. It's interesting about the control. Even the word control, because oftentimes, like salespeople have been told, you need to control the conversation, and you need to control this, and you need to control that. But you're correct. Is when we're on the other side, when we're a buyer or a prospect, the moment we feel that somebody's trying to box us in or take away our ability to even react, in the way that we want to, or even or to remove ourselves from the situation. I mean, we put up massive barriers. So I mean, it's almost like giving that control away is the thing to do, rather than the salesperson trying to hold on to it or grab it.
Yes, and I think the important thing here is to recognize the client's behavioral preferences
Mhm.
and work with those. Now, I'm sure in all the many interviews that you've done for the Sales Pop, John, somebody will have come in and explained how you can look at people's body language and you can work with the tone of voice and look at the ways in which they work with their
Mhm.
voice. These are ways of helping to understand what the client needs. And what I mean by that is they don't need anything to do with your product or
Mhm.
service at all at this point. What they need is for you to affirm them.
Mhm.
And so, what you need to do is to recognize what their behavioral preferences are and give to them. So if you're dealing with a driver, somebody who wants results, somebody who wants outcomes and likes to do things quickly,
Mhm.
change your behavior in order to deliver that.
Yeah.
If you're working with somebody who's quite expressive, they're creative, they're innovative, they want to talk about their ideas for using the product, do that. but you need to increase the pace and go with them as to where they want to go.
Yeah.
And by the same token, you might find somebody who's a little bit more analytical, and they'll want a lot of data and a lot of information in order that they can make decisions. You know, give them the research, give them the
Mhm.
background to the product that you're talking to them about. And then finally, there may be somebody who's a little bit more warm and a little bit more relationship focused. They probably can't make a decision to save their life, but they're nice, friendly people and they're amiable. So what you've got to do is you've got to encourage them to feel that they are helping other people to behave in the most
Mhm.
appropriate way within the team that they operate in. So again, give them the support that they need in order to move forward. Now, I've given you that overview very, very, very quickly, but that's how a good
Mhm.
salesperson works with a client or a customer.
Yeah, because basically what you've outlined there is that the fundamental that you're selling to humans, and humans are different, and humans react in different ways to different situations, and therefore you have to be flexible and nimble enough to be able to say, okay, Robin's highly analytical. Therefore, if I start babbling at a 20,000 foot, whatever, and try to rush through things, it's not going to go very well. Conversely, if Robin's like a 20,000, 30,000 foot thinker, if I start getting highly analytical and down the weeds, I'm going to lose you within a few seconds.
That's right. That's right. And good salespeople learn the art of doing this, and
Mhm.
it's almost intuitive.
Yeah.
I think the important thing is to recognize that good salespeople have these inherent skills, and really, what I do with my team is just to make them a little bit more a little bit more obvious and help
Yeah.
people to come to terms with them and to build
Mhm.
upon them and help people to understand themselves
Mhm.
better. You know, what are
Yeah.
my preferences? That influences the conversation.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask you, because obviously, to have high levels of emotional intelligence, you need to have high levels of self awareness, right? And self awareness, for me, self awareness is probably the greatest gift you can give yourself. It's something that unfortunately a lot of us, develop maybe later in life. It'd be nice if we could do it much earlier. It would save a lot of learning, shall we say? But about that, how do you help people, learn more about themselves, become self-aware? Because again, like I said, it's not something that comes naturally to us, is to start to self-reflect. And we live in the culture today, when we have distractions all over the place and everything, to make sure we don't spend any time in our own heads even.
Well, the way in which I would do it, again, with my team, is to help people to understand themselves by using a robust scientific psychometric
Hmm.
to really give them the insights. Something like the DISC assessment, which is what I've just given you an overview
Yeah.
around. The Myers-Briggs type indicator. I might use Ocean, which is based on the big five psychological factors, or I might use an emotional intelligence questionnaire. There are a lot of really good ones out there to build up self-awareness. But John, we don't even need to go down that avenue. Really, what we need to do is to help people to understand these are what my preferences are. These are what my behavioral preferences are. This is how I like to engage with the world. So if I can determine that in myself, then I can recognize what impact my behavior has on other people, particularly when I'm challenged or particularly when I'm stressed. I might be a bit too sharp, a bit too blunt. I might come over aggressive. I might get easily distracted, and I might actually give in too easily, or I might be hypercritical. I might be a combination of quite a few of those. So, how do I react under pressure? And how does that then influence and impact the people that I'm engaging with, either members of my team or indeed my clients or my customers?
Hmm. And I like that idea of, like, how does one react under pressure? Because there are different, in different circumstances, there are different behaviors that are appropriate. I mean, being very calm under pressure is great in some circumstances. Some other circumstances, like being a little bit more, worked up and getting things done fast and reacting and everything is more, sometimes, you don't want the person who's extremely calm just sitting there going, yeah, okay, everything's under control. Like if there's a tree about to fall on you or something, but you want the person who's going to rush in there screaming and push you out of the way. So you also have to recognize that it's situational too, right?
Oh, most definitely. And look, let's go back to the beginning of the conversation. We were talking about sales being quite challenging. You're under a lot of pressure to hit your sales
Yeah.
targets. You're under a lot of pressure to hit your call rates. If you are failing to achieve these within a given period of time, it is going to change your behavior. You're in front of a particularly abusive client who has chosen to react in a certain way that day. How are you going to respond?
Mhm.
Um, you've got to make these decisions very much on the hoof. You may have somebody who wants to prolong a conversation because they're really enjoying it, but you need to close the conversation down because you've got another sales call that's
Mhm.
booked in the diary. You don't want to let that client down. So there are a whole host of factors that are going to be driving your behaviors, and it's having the recognition that it's driving a certain set of emotions in you, and those emotions are creating the physiology and the psychology for you to choose to react. Again, let me say, very easy for you and I
Yeah.
to talk about it in the cool of the afternoon in the United Kingdom or in the
Yeah.
morning in the US, but very, very, very difficult in
Mm.
these circumstances. You get better at it, and the
Mhm.
reason you get better at it is because you learn what works and you learn what doesn't work.
Yeah.
But with a degree of self-reflection, you can get there a lot quicker.
Yeah, yeah, no, you can, because otherwise it's what did they call that old? It's the school of hard knocks and experience, and some of those experiences you could probably do without going through if you had a little bit more self reflection. One other thing, I think there's an added dimension in sales, Robin, though, is that the sales profession and the concept of the salesperson has been so negatively portrayed, in popular culture. Everybody kind of their first reaction is, oh, used car salesman or whatever, or high pressure, all of that. And some of it has to do with a lot of salespeople default into the role to begin with. You'll see, a lot of people go to college maybe and do a marketing degree, come out of college and
Yeah.
realize there's like, for every one marketing job, there's 1,000 sales jobs, right? And if you don't get that one marketing job, you default into sales, and maybe it wasn't where you wanted to be in the first place. But I think that's an added dimension where you have to, redefine what sales means for you and be proud of the role you're playing, as opposed to buy into the negative stereotypes.
I think we've got to address this negative stereotype, and this is where emotional intelligence comes in. I've got to take myself back to my early 20s when I was looking for a role and I moved into a sales role, which I
Mhm.
did for 15 years. Um, in various different guises. And there was a lot of negativity around sales. And I tried to convince myself, oh, I wasn't selling. I was actually doing something completely different.
Mm.
And it's very, very hard when the media and society paints this negative picture of a salesperson. But you've got to actually learn to come to terms with it. You've got to look people in the eye and you've got to say to them, I am a salesperson.
Mhm.
And you've got to change their behavior and their perception around it. And you've got to say, I am not a used car salesperson, because used car salespeople will sell in a particular way and they are very good at it.
Mhm.
They have a degree of success in that, but you don't equate a used car salesman with every single salesperson.
Yeah.
Um, there are elements of the sales that I did. I was a medical representative working within the pharmaceutical
Mhm.
industry for, like I say, 15 years, and I worked in the London teaching hospitals. This was a role. This was a role that virtually nobody else could do.
Right.
And there were people who would do it, and they would come in and last 6 months, and then they move on. I did it for 10 years, and I did it for 10 years because I had that ability to sell into the medical profession at a very, very highly intellectual level.
Mhm.
Now I'm not particularly intellectual myself. I too tend to dumb things down, and that's my strength,
Mhm.
and it's around my communication style. But, you know, a lot of doctors and a lot of senior physicians and surgeons would look at me as a salesperson, and it was as if they trodden in something and they needed to scrape me off the bottom of their shoe.
Mhm.
Now, what I had to do was to convince them that they got it wrong,
Yeah.
and they got me wrong. Now that's not easy when they don't want to see me. So
Mhm.
how do you provide value to them in terms of helping them to do their job better? And I go back to the definition that I've given you with regards to selling. It's providing the data and the information. This is not emotions. This is providing the data and the information around your product in order that the other person can make the choices that they need to change their behavior.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's, and I think that's what you have to sometimes is you have to remind yourself is that you're providing a service and that you're actually looking to help this person or this organization, and if they go along with this, that everybody's going to win. And I think that's it. And I think that the other thing is to take the adversarial nature out of it, because that's what people are expecting. You're expecting like buying and selling to be this kind of adversarial sort of
Yeah.
dance, where it doesn't have to be that way.
No, 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 it doesn't. And look, if I'm going out into the marketplace to buy something, whether it's some bathroom tiles, whether it's a piece of furniture, whether it's a new computer,
Mhm.
I want to be sold to.
Mhm. Yeah.
I want to engage with somebody who's more knowledgeable about the product than I am, and I want to be able to ask them questions in order that I can make the right decision. And it might
Mhm.
be that the bit of kit they're trying to sell me is not appropriate for me, but it
Mhm.
helps me to make the decision and eliminate it from my inquiries.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's a fascinating thing, because you're correct. Is because when we are buyers, you're right. I mean, if it's, if it's we're buying for ourselves as individuals, yeah, you're looking around going, where's the person who can help me? Where's the expert? I need this person now. And then later on, like, maybe you're sitting in your business and somebody called you up and you're going, there's a salesperson on the phone. I don't want to talk to them.
Yeah.
And it's a weird dichotomy. One thing that you did say, which I just wanted to come back to and emphasize before we go, is said where you look people in the eye and you said, I'm a salesperson, I'm there. I worked, I ran a sales consultancy for a while. Huthwaite Spin Selling actually originated from Neil Rackham in the UK. And when we engaged with large companies, often big global companies, but it was often funny. They would say, oh, we don't call them salespeople. And I'd say, oh yeah, what do you call them? And they'd come up with some ridiculous title for them. And I'd say, no, that's fine. We'll update everything to make sure that that's what we're calling them. I said, but let me tell you one thing: the prospects, they know they're salespeople. I said, you can call them whatever you want, but they know they're salespeople. So my advice would be to embrace that, and be upfront, and embrace that, rather than try and hide behind some goofy title, because at the end of the day, when you're selling to somebody, they know you're a salesperson.
This is it, and I did say, look people in the eye and
Yeah.
say that I'm a salesperson, and I did that for 15 years. I didn't stop after I moved out of sales
Mhm.
because,
Yeah.
look, John, I'm a salesperson. I'm selling you my ideas
Yeah.
around
Yeah.
emotional
Yeah.
intelligence.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm selling.
Hmm.
That's really what I'm doing at this particular moment in time, and, you go back to the concept of Daniel Pink, who says we're selling all the time. Yeah, we are selling all the
Hmm.
time. And as long as we recognize that and embrace it and say, yes, I'm a salesperson, then we're never going to change the perception in the media. We're never going to
Mhm.
change the perception of some of these very ignorant clients that we deal with. But all we've got to do is to try and make the world a better place by improving our interactions with people and get
Yeah.
them to actually then say to you at the end of the day, I enjoyed that. Or even
Yeah.
better, I like seeing you, Robin, because you're not a salesperson and you don't sell to me. And I don't know whether to take that as an insult or a compliment.
Well, I think given, as we said, given the perception of things, I think it's a compliment. Well, listen, Robin, this has been fascinating. I know we could go on for hours on this, but all of Robin's information will be below this video. But before we go, please do tell people a little bit more about you and what you do.
Sure, I'm an emotional intelligence coach, trainer and facilitator. My business is focused around selling concepts in emotional intelligence. Now, I have a range of online training courses, as John mentioned at the beginning. They are available online at www.courses.ei for change. Sorry, yes, courses.ei4change.info/collections. Or, to
Mhm.
make it even simpler, https colon backslash
Mhm.
emotional.intelligence.courses/collections. Or you can find me at ei4change.com or through LinkedIn.
Excellent. And like I said, we'll have some of those links below here. So listen, thank you again, Dr. Robin Hills. Thank you for watching and listening. I'll see you all again very soon. Thank
Thank you,
you.
John. Bye.